Have you heard of Paris syndrome? It's this thing where tourists come to Paris and they're so disappointed. They literally have a psychological breakdown. Dizziness, sweating. Every year, around 20 Japanese tourists get hit so hard that the embassy actually gets involved. And a few of them actually immediately want to go back home because of Paris. I live here, I'm Gabrielle, and I'm gonna tell you why Paris syndrome is not what the tourists say it is. So this channel is about the real France. The cultural things nobody warns you about, everyday life behind the cliche. If that's your thing and you're interested in Paris and French culture, abonne-toi, subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. Allez, on y va, let's get into it. Paris syndrome was actually first documented in 1986 by a Japanese psychiatrist called Hiroaki Ota, who was actually working here at a hospital in Paris. And she could specifically observe it in certain Japanese tourists. Now, there's the famous story that the Japanese embassy has a hotline that you need to call in case of emergencies for being disappointed about Paris. Except the embassy says that the hotline doesn't actually exist. So even this about the Paris syndrome might be completely a myth, which honestly is very on theme, but we'll get back to that. When French people hear about things like this, they say, attends, mais quoi? They're sad that the waiter didn't smile at them. For us, that's just a Tuesday. C'est hyper normal. But actually, it is interesting because what's happening is a massive gap between expectation and reality. You've seen the movies, you've seen the music videos. Paris is supposed to be romance, croissants, women in Louboutins, bicycles, and baguettes. But maybe the baguette will take it out because French people do actually have one every day. And then when you arrive, it smells. The metro is not great. Some of the streets are dirty. There's graffiti. And your hotel room is the size of a closet. Tu imagines? Can you imagine? I went through all the Reddit threads and also the tourist forums, and it's always the same 5 points that come back. While we're chatting, I'm taking des fraises que j'avais congelées et des figues to make myself un petit smoothie parce qu'il fait très chaud. Number one thing they said is that everything is so small. The hotel rooms, the apartments, the food portions, and yes, things are smaller. I used to live in an apartment for about 2 years that was 20 meters square, which is about 215 square feet. My bedroom was right in my living area, and Mei, my puppy, could sit anywhere and she could see me from the whole apartment. But here's what tourists don't understand, is that French people don't think that this is actually a problem. Because your apartment in Paris isn't your life. Your life is at home, but it's mainly outside as well. The building common area, the cafe, the park, the terrace. And you know, us Parisians, we spend a lot of time living sur nos terrasses because that's where we catch up, you know, where we catch up with our friends, with our colleagues, where we think about life, where we write things. Rain, cold, it doesn't matter. We'll put on a coat and we'll sit outside for hours. You don't need 800 square feet because we're most of the time not home constantly. Of course, in winter, un peu plus. Mais la vie est trop courte to stress about square meters. Number 2 is that Paris is dirty. This one has truth to it. Wow, ça a l'air trop bon. Goûtons? It's true that it isn't the cleanest of cities. You know, you can see some trash around, you can see dog poop on sidewalks. I do not understand the owners who don't pick it up. And then there's the grève, the strikes. For example, it was about a year ago when the garbage collectors went on strike to show that they were annoyed for their low salaries, which I also understand. But then the trash piled up all over the sidewalks and it was not great. But here's what tourists don't see. Every single morning, the street cleaners, we call them les hommes en vert, the men in green, are out at dawn with their hoses and their little green carts, washing the streets before anyone even wakes up. There's also les gardiens, les gardiennes, so they're the building carekeepers. They also clean like the front part of the building, the inner part of the building. So the city is clean. It just gets dirty again because it's a city. It's a big city. Over 2 million people live here. Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire? What can we do? And French people, and especially Parisians, they complain about this more than anyone. They're the first ones to step in and say, ah, c'est dégueulasse. Ew, it's gross. Paris is over 2,000 years old. The streets weren't built for this many people. And so it's its own kind of mess as well. But it still remains one of the most beautiful cities that I've ever seen because even though, you know, the street might not be perfectly clean like I've seen in Japan or certain places in Asia. You just look up and you see the amazing, beautiful monuments and buildings everywhere. And for me, that view can't be compensated. I'd rather have, a street that's not perfectly clean. But when I look up in the sky, I feel like I'm walking in an open air museum and everything is art. Number 3, Parisians are rude. Celui-là. This one. I think this is honestly the biggest one and the most misunderstood. So I actually made a whole separate video about it. Cold staff, the opening bonjour rule, why French people, why we come across the way we do. I'll put the link in the bio if you haven't already seen that one and you can watch it later. But also to say that French people aren't rude. We're just very direct and honest. And there's a difference. When a waiter doesn't smile at you, it's not because he hates you. It's because why would he be obliged to constantly smile? He's working, he's not your friend, he's very respectful, but he doesn't have to put like a full-on smile for like the entire time. And here's the thing that I've said many times. Problem isn't that the waiter was rude. Problem is that you didn't say bonjour and take your time. In France, bonjour is not a greeting, it's like an opening to an interaction. You say bonjour to the person, you acknowledge them, and then people start opening up. You leave, you say merci, au revoir every time. So you skip the bonjour, you're invisible. So French people are rude. C'est pas ça. Number 4 is nobody speaks English. Most French people do speak English. We learn it at school for years. We listen to American music and pop stars. The thing is, a lot of us French people, we don't speak it because there's this very French thing of not being perfect. If our English isn't flawless or fluent, we're not gonna try. We hate making mistakes in front of people. It's a whole national complex. And there's also the part that if someone decides to come to France or decides to come to Paris, we feel that it's also their responsibility to know like the basics. Perhaps bonjour, merci, qu'est-ce que c'est, je voudrais. Perhaps I can make a video about that if you want to know the essential French phrases before coming to travel to France. But something that I've seen is I've seen tourists walk up to French people without even saying bonjour and immediately speaking English. No bonjour, no nothing. That was the problem. They didn't even acknowledge the person. Donc tu m'étonnes. So I'm not surprised that they were kind of rude replying. So I would say definitely acknowledge the person in French and then perhaps ask your question nicely in English. Numéro 5. Paris, it's so expensive. I mean, yes, especially if you compare Paris to the rest of France. There are many ways to enjoy Paris in a cheap way. Obviously, the big expenses besides the plane ticket is accommodation. But once you have accommodation covered, your life here, you can decide to choose it in a way that would actually be a lot cheaper. Instead of going to the fancy restaurants, you can go to des bouillons, or you can go where locals go. Or now that it's summer, you can even buy stuff in a grocery store and take it to go, or go into a boulangerie and then have a picnic by the Seine or in a park. Instead of buying a bottled water, you can ask for une carafe d'eau. The problem is that most tourists go right next to the Eiffel Tower, right next to the Arc de Triomphe, right next to the Louvre, and pay 9 euros for a latte or cappuccino. So that's not Paris being expensive, that's kind of the tourist trap. And as I mentioned, really, va dans les petites ruelles, go into the small streets that are right next to those places, and you'll find a lot of gems. Also, if you follow me on Instagram, I try to share affordable, nice places. In French, we call those attrape-touristes, the ones that overprice things, like they catch tourists. So to avoid that, definitely like listen to people who actually live here for the recommendations of what to do and where to go. Because Paris syndrome was first identified for Japanese tourists, and I personally grew up in Asia. I'm half French, half Asian, so I understand the expectation of Paris. In Asia, Paris is le rêve, the dream, the ultimate luxury and romantic destination. Every street is supposed to look like a postcard, and then you arrive and the first thing you'd see is scaffolding, construction work, some graffiti, streets not being completely clean, metros that are overcrowded and a bit old. But here's the thing that might surprise you. French people also have their own version of Paris syndrome. When someone from La Provence, which actually means anywhere besides Paris, even me, I'm from Lyon, so Lyon is considered La Provence for Parisians, even though it's not the countryside. You know, from Lyon, from Marseille, from a village in the countryside. If you move to Paris for the first time, you're shocked too. I was shocked because Parisians are cold, the pace is much faster. It's a lot, even for French people. There's even a word and expression for the Parisian energy, which is métro, boulot, dodo. Metro, work, sleep. Because that's kind of the rhythm on repeat. Of course, you know, compared to some cultures, like I know that having worked in China as well, on peut pas comparer, we cannot compare, but Paris compared to other places in France is much faster paced. Even French people get shocked. Maybe the problem is in Paris. Maybe the problem is what we expect from it. Paris never promised anyone a romantic movie or a postcard. Just Paris has been a real city for over 2,000 years, with real people living real lives. The waiter who didn't smile, he's a real person with tired feet, probably did long hours. The tiny apartment, that's someone's actual home, and that was my home for over 2 years. The dirty, not too recent metro, that's how a million people get to work every morning. Et j'adore cette ville and I love this city, not because it's perfect, but because it's real and there's so much culture, there's so much art, there's so many stories. And I think when you live in a place like this, it definitely inspires you to see things differently, to see your home differently, to see your relationships differently, and to appreciate things in life differently. Like a place can be all things at once. It can be messy, it can be beautiful, it can be complicated, it can be frustrating, it can be inspiring, like everything all at once. Comme une personne, just like a person, you know? If you're planning a trip to Paris, here's my advice. Drop the expectations, all of them. Don't come looking for the Paris in the movies, the Paris on a Pinterest photo. Come looking for the actual Paris. Everyone is just people watching, everyone's taking their time, there's a lot of people in the metros, the hotel room's a bit small, because that's part of the real Paris. That's the Paris that I live in. And honestly, it's so much more real and so much better than the postcard version. Je te promets, I promise. And if you want to go a little deeper, the words that don't make it into the videos, the local tips, the expressions, what's happening in France or in Paris, I have a newsletter. It's like getting a letter from a friend in your inbox every week. The link is in the bio below. If you want to discover more of the real France, the one most people never find, go ahead and subscribe because I love sharing my adventures en français et en anglais, in French and in English. Et puis, let me know, what do you love and what do you dislike about Paris? Did you experience this Paris syndrome before? And what about the city surprised you? Je suis trop curieuse, I'm super curious. Hope to see you in the next one. Make sure to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you very soon. Merci beaucoup et à bientôt!